Can fan outrage change Becky Lynch's WrestleMania match? More WrestleMania changes, my review of last night's Monday Night Raw, and more. I'm Luke Owen, and this is the WrestleTalk News, which is 66 2/3% chance better than the pipe bomb.
Support WrestleTalk!
We'll come on to the Liv Morgan stuff when we get to the Raw review itself, so you can click the timestamps down below if you want to just jump ahead to that story. So for now, we'll look at some of the other reported changes to the WrestleMania 40 card. We've seen a lot of things reportedly change in front of our eyes since the Royal Rumble. The original plan was supposed to be Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins versus CM Punk, but Punk's injury during the Rumble match itself shifted things to Cody versus Rollins, while Roman would instead face The Rock. However, due to fan backlash, Cody was moved back to Roman, Seth is getting a match with Drew McIntyre, and there's still a question mark over what Dwayne is doing, either a tag match with Roman against Cody and Seth, or a singles match with Cody, which is currently being teased on TV. Basically, if this was that Domino Rally meme, the small domino is Jack Perry wanting to use real glass. But it's not just the main event scene that is seeing reported changes. Dave Meltzer writes in the Wrestling Observer Daily Update that following the Elimination Chamber in Perth, g'day mate, Perth, Elimination Chamber Perth, g'day mate, Foster's, Wallabies, Perth. Can't do Perth, can't say Perth, bad accent. He was told that LA Knight will take on AJ Styles while Logan Paul will face Randy Orton for the United States Championship. Meltzer writes that both are right now listed for Mania. This is a change in the reported plan of Logan Paul defending his United States Championship against LA Knight, a match that was set up and teased on TV. What do you make of these reported changes? Let me know in the comments down below. If those two matches do get added, and those are ifs, Dave's not been on a great run of form as of late, they will join Cody versus Roman, Seth versus Drew, Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch, more on that in a bit, and Io Sky versus Bayley. At least I think Bayley is still on the show. She wasn't on the WrestleMania press conference and has been left off another poster for the show despite winning the Royal Rumble, with Bianca Belair instead taking her place on the poster. Put some respect on Bayley's name, WWE! Transitioning now into much more serious news. In fact, I'll pop this down as that doesn't feel appropriate. Transitioning now into more serious news as the lawsuit from Janelle Grant against WWE, Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis has opened up more stories from around the wrestling world, with more people coming forward. One of those people is Nick Kiniski, who wrestled in WWF in late 1986 and early 1987. In an interview with Post Wrestling, Nick has now alleged that then WWE VP of Operations Terry Garvin propositioned him for sex on multiple occasions, including once at his hotel room. Kiniski notes that he spoke to Vince McMahon about this harassment and wished for it to stop, with Vince allegedly saying that he would sort it out, but nothing changed. This allegedly resulted in Kiniski's push being halted, and in an alleged confrontation with Vince in person, Kiniski told Vince that it wasn't fair that he was being punished for Garvin's actions, and said he'd finish his bookings but wouldn't be coming back. But Vince allegedly said, "No, you're done now." If this story has affected you in any way, please do go to our Support WrestleTalk Support Each Other page. It's linked to in the video description down below. And in some sad news, it was announced that wrestling legend Ole Anderson has passed away at the age of 81. Anderson was a key figure in the Territory days, making his name in Jim Crockett Promotions, Georgia Championship Wrestling, and of course, World Championship Wrestling. He was part of the lineup of the original Four Horsemen, alongside Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, and manager J.J. Dillon. Ole Anderson was also part of the booking committee for WCW, among other roles, from 1990 to 1995, retiring in 1996. WrestleTalk would like to send our condolences to the friends and family of Ole Anderson. So if you're in the need for a pick-me-up, and I will pick this up to remind everyone, why not check out our most recent Parts Fun Known list, where Tempest goes over 5 great Elimination Chamber matches that led to horrible WrestleMania matches, and vice versa. Here's a clip.
The positive of the 2008 SmackDown Elimination Chamber match was that Taker and Batista were able to continue their year-long rivalry, entering as the first two and lasting until the end. But unfortunately, the rest of the match was comprised of what happens when the big and tall section of a clothing store gains sentience and mid-carders Finlay and MVP. I love Finlay and MVP, but come on now, we both know they weren't winning.
And now it's time for my review of Monday Night Raw, aka the Bloodline Hunter edition of Monday Night Raw. in about 5 minutes. And we'll use this to jump into that Liv Morgan stuff that we teased at the top of this video. Because this episode of Raw opened with Mammy on top of the broadcast as Rhea Ripley cut a promo about retaining her title against Nia Jax and having a brief tete-a-tete with Becky Lynch, who won the Elimination Chamber. Both women said they would win at WrestleMania, and then Nia Jax attacked Becky Lynch at the end of the segment to set up a match between the two for next week. At this point in the show, it felt less that we were booking Jax to be inserted into the title match at Mania, and more a way for Becky to get her win back on her road to Mania after losing to Jax in January, as she was on her road to the Elimination Chamber. That all makes complete sense to me, but there's something that happened later in the show that might change some of that. Later in the show, Nia Jax and Liv Morgan were having a match, which was pretty good as Morgan ragdolled around for Nia, but it ended in DQ when Lynch attacked Nia Jax, getting her revenge for earlier in the broadcast. Backstage, Adam Pearce announced Lynch versus Nia Jax for next week, and Morgan walked up and shouted at Becky that not everything is about her. This felt like WWE were leaning into the groundswell of support that Morgan's fans showed on social media over the weekend following Lynch's win and therefore Liv's loss at Elimination Chamber. The general consensus among Liv's fans, as far as I can tell, is that Becky is overpushed or that she never puts anyone over, and Liv should be the one getting the title shot instead of her. A sort of how dare The Rock steal this moment from Cody Rhodes sort of thing, only not quite as loud. I get that some people really like Liv, I also think she's great, but for me, this is Becky's story right now. They've been building to this match with Rhea and Becky for close to a year at this point, and it's probably the biggest money match you could do with Rhea Ripley as champion. The interaction with Morgan backstage with Becky makes me think that Liv's going to get involved in the Jax match next week and cause another DQ. The current speculation and desires from Morgan fans is that Liv gets inserted into the Becky versus Rhea match and make it a three-way. What do you think of the fan backlash and the potential of Morgan being put into the title match? Let me know in the comments down below. Speaking of people some fans want to see inserted into world title matches, and Sami Zayn beat Shinsuke Nakamura to start some momentum heading into WrestleMania. I had a big discussion with Sad about this on the Elimination Chamber review, but I don't get the feeling that Sami is being pushed to be put in the Drew versus Seth match, and instead will be going for a secondary belt. And it looks like I might be right once again, as Zayn later had a stare down with Gunther, which feels like that is his more likely Mania direction. Raquel Rodriguez beat Chelsea Green in just over a minute. Green got good local heat from the crowd before the match started, and Gunther came out for a promo to find his next challenger for the Intercontinental Championship, and was interrupted by the Judgment Day. Damian Priest said that in order to fully control Raw, they need his title. Gunther scoffed at this and said, well, Priest isn't going to cash in on him, it's not going to be Finn Balor or that lad with the big head over there. And this is where Dominic Mysterio stepped up. Dominic versus Gunther for the IC title sounds like a tremendous idea to me, but it was more of a backdrop for the bigger feud of Priest versus Gunther. Is that an Intercontinental Championship feud, or is it a setup for once Priest has cashed in and is world champion and Gunther needs someone to face for the world title when it comes to Bash at Berlin? And given that WWE spent a lot of this Raw setting up other contenders for the IC title, Sami Zayn, Chad Gable, who had a meeting backstage with Adam Pearce saying it's personal for him, and Dominic here, who also had a conversation with Andrade Not El Idolo backstage, are we heading towards a big multi-man potential ladder match for Gunther's IC title? You could also add Priest, Truth, Balor, and Miz into that as well. Gunther did name drop Awesome Truth in his promo, but I feel like that's the tag match at Mania instead. Speaking of tag teams, an Imperium beat New Day in an excellent street fight. This went through 2 commercial breaks, was absolute carnage, and was absolutely awesome. Speaking of other tag teams, and Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark quickly beat the way in a heatless match, DIY and The Miz formed a stable with Truth called Regeneration X, and Drew McIntyre had a big promo segment with Seth Rollins. Drew's point was quite simple, after making fun of CM Punk that is. He wants Seth to stop going after the Bloodline, because if he keeps up with this, they will just get involved in their world title match at Mania, and he doesn't want that. If he's going to win, he wants to do it himself. Great thing about all of that is that As we literally saw last week, he will gladly take the advantage if it's given to him. Seth said that he needs to destroy the bloodline before Mania because if he doesn't, they'll come for the world title next. Lol, Roman literally said it's a trash belt that no one cares about. I thought Drew was great here, as was Seth, and I'm excited to see what they do next in the story. And the main event saw Cody Rhodes quickly beat Grayson Waller, brand split LOL, but the real main event came after the match, as Paul Heyman came out, flanked by security, to speak with Cody and ask him, nay, beg him, to withdraw his challenge to The Rock for a singles match. Cody cut a fiery babyface promo about being sick of playing the nice guy against The Rock, but not anymore. It is not the bloodline that are hunting me. I am hunting the bloodline. It was a great line and a killer way to end off what was, elsewhere, a pretty pedestrian episode of Raw. The street fight was awesome, but really is the only match you need to go out of your way to see. So once again, the show was about the promos, and good promos they were. This week's Raw is 3 out of 5. Now go and check out that Parts Fun Known list about best chamber matches that led to bad Mania matches, and vice versa.